Ha, I was muted, but now I'm on.
There
Do you
we
want to
go.
redo the intro, or do we want to just
No, we're good.
roll?
Let's roll with it, bro. Let's roll with it.
There you go. I'm like a 70-year-old person on Zoom, not knowing how to unmute myself.
Where's the
It's
button?
Where's button? At least it didn't take like half an hour. I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it, dude. So it's been a while since we've talked on here. We talk all the time now because we, for the past few months we haven't been able to see each other in real life because of situations. But we've been able to hang out a lot and get to know each other over the last few years. So why don't you just share with us what life's been like for you since we talked, since you came on the podcast originally, which is about 3 years ago, I think now.
Yeah, man, it's been a hot minute. So now both of us have little babies that we're taking care of, and Greg just had a little one, and we got a baby coming in September. So in terms of what's changed since then, kids growing up really fast, and in terms of what we offer as a business, the business has really grown a lot. Last time we talked, it was me doing one-on-one consulting, and now we have like a full program and a team with 8 different coaches, and it's a lot more structured. And we've really kind of honed in some different strategies for basically helping artists to grow their fan base and make a sustainable income with their music. Last time we talked, really our main strategy that we were talking about was this tour hacking idea, which is awesome and works really, really well. But a lot of artists that we meet or that we work with don't necessarily want to go follow other tours and lines, and especially nowadays because of the coronavirus and the global pandemic at the time that we're recording this, it makes it really difficult to go out and do something like tour hacking. So a lot of what we teach now is more like virtually based, and we call it virtual tour hacking.
Awesome. So you've made some changes since we last talked. It's a lot more structured, lots of growth too. I know that you've had hundreds of people come through the program, and many lives have been changed because of the work that you're doing. So why don't you kind of just explain the difference between, let me take a step back. Why don't you go ahead and kind of explain or like give a brief overview of the program as it is today? Is that something that you'd want to do?
Sure.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, man. So for anyone who's listening to this, who's maybe like unfamiliar, or it's been a few years, and you're like, wait, I don't even remember what is tour hacking, or what is this guy? Why is he in outer space? I don't know if you're watching this on video, if you're listening to it, but the background is like some like starry looking stuff. But I used to tour full time with my band Paradise Fears, and when we first started touring, I remember booking our own shows and spending a lot of time and effort to try to book these shows and feeling like rock stars when we booked our first tour. And then when we actually went to play the shows, like no one came to the shows. We quickly learned that you actually have to have people coming out, or else it's just like the bartender in the back of the room. And at the time, we were living in our cars, eating peanut butter tortillas, sleeping in Walmart parking lots. And for us, like one of the biggest things that changed everything around for us was an idea that our lead singer had, which we came to call tour hacking. And the basic premise was that we would walk up to people who are waiting in lines for other shows. And our favorite bands would have thousands of people waiting outside in lines sometimes for days in advance. And so we would just approach those people and introduce ourselves. I had a pair of headphones where I'd like share some clips of our songs, and I was like a super shy, awkward kid, so it did not come naturally to me at all. I was like shaking and stuttering as I walked up to people. But what we found is that it worked incredibly well. And, I think the reason is because the people that you're meeting when you do that are like the best kinds of fans who are actually going out to shows, and they support music, and they're like really open to connecting with you as long as you do it in a way that's not like super spammy, or it's like, yo, buy my mixtape. Like, everyone knows like rappers or whatever.
Yeah.
So anyways, long story short, we did that, and we sold 24,000 CDs doing that in a very short period of time. And because of that, we had an opportunity to open up for one of the bands we were doing it on, called All Time Low. They had millions of fans. They were one of our favorite bands of all time low. And they heard about they're one of our favorite bands of all time. And they heard about what we were doing, and they started bringing us on tour with them. So that kind of snowballed, and along with a bunch of other things, turned into a career where we were able to tour,
really accelerate that. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so that's physical tour hacking. Now, you're not limited to doing this in real life, right? You can implement a similar strategy to this on the internet, right?
Absolutely. Yep. So that's one thing that I learned when I started Modern Musician. I was basically at a point where we were touring full time, 10 or 11 months out of the year. And I couldn't, or not that I couldn't, but I was about to start my family, and I was about to settle down with my wife, and I was trying to figure out how I could provide for them without traveling full time. And anyways, I found some mentors who basically helped me create this business and be able to share what we had learned. But one of the things that happened was I started talking and meeting a lot of artists who were kind of starting out, and I told them about this idea of tour hacking. And physical tour hacking is awesome and it works really well. And a couple of artists that I worked with, made $11,000 in a single month doing it. So it still works if you can go out and do it. But so many people I talked to over and over again were like, I love that idea. It's such a good story. I can see why it works. I've got a family at home, or, I don't necessarily want to go out and do this. Is there anything else is there any other way that we could use that kind of strategy to in a more leveraged way? And that's when I kind of went back to the drawing board and tried to figure out, is it possible to do like a virtual take on this strategy in order to connect with people online, so you don't necessarily have to go out to shows and meet people face to face? And for the last year and a half, we've tried out a bunch of different strategies online. And our band, we had about 17 million views on YouTube, and we had 24 million streams on Spotify. And the online part was a big part of what we taught. But over this past year and a half, we've really kind of cracked the code on what we call virtual tour hacking. And the idea is very, very similar to what we did in person physically, but it's just you do it online. And so, that's the same principles as any successful business is, essentially you find out where the people who are going to get the most value from you and what you offer hang out. You go and you introduce yourself to them, you connect with them, you deliver value, and then you make some sort of offer. That's just like that's the foundations of any successful business. So virtual tour hacking is doing that, but starting those conversations on like a online platform.
Awesome. Yeah, dude, that's so foundational. It's really cool how you've connected the dots on the principles. You know what I mean? So it's not, you can take that context, right? And, that's how it's solid, right? If you can take the principles and apply them, and they still work, they're just as effective. So I'm curious. So you haven't actually done virtual tour hacking for your band, but it's the thing that has empowered your clients and other musicians that you've worked with to change their lives, right?
Mm.
Now that's interesting. So I'd like to ask, how did you go about discovering how to translate that into the digital space? Can you kind of share the story?
Absolutely. So, with Paradise Fears, a couple of the biggest things that we did to be able to grow online were strategies that we still teach nowadays, but they aren't necessarily as like the analogy that I like to use is that in the music industry, it's sort of like you're a surfer and you're trying to catch waves. And at any point in time, there's going to be waves that passed, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago of strategies that used to work really, really well, or, they kind of reached their crest. And then if you happen to be swimming along with them at the time and you really aligned with those waves, you could catch them and go whoosh and get massive momentum and shoot forward. And, the mistake that a lot of people make is that they look at the past of what things worked, 10 years ago, and try to replicate that. But if the waves already passed, then you could spend a lot of time kind of trying to catch back up to the waves. Mm-hmm. So a couple of those things that we did with Paradise Fears that worked really, really well, things like YouTube cover videos. Like we really kind of caught one of those waves where not a lot of people were doing it, but we were, and we got millions and millions of views from that. And that really helped to grow our audience. You can still be successful doing that nowadays. It's just quite a bit more saturated, and so you really need to kind of stand out if you're doing that. You need to be really, really good. Yeah. And so now, what I view as this virtual tour hacking is really like a huge cresting wave that if you're smart and you're kind of like looking back at the upcoming waves, you can kind of feel the tide and you kind of swim along with it and catch it. I really feel like that's what we're teaching right now. And the way that we came across the strategy was a mix of the experience from what we did with Paradise Fears mixed with really me having to figure out over the past couple of years, how to be successful with Modern Musician. And so I invested, $40,000 into online business coaching and different programs, and learned a lot about some digital marketing tools that, when combined with what we learned with Paradise Fears and some more of the grassroots marketing stuff, has really just amplified the results that our artists are getting.
Awesome. Okay. So it looks like you built on the previous experience of Paradise Fears, and you invested in a lot of training and totally focused and honed in on, okay, what can we do today? What wave is coming up behind us, and how can we capitalize and ride that wave? Okay, so that's awesome. So would you mind just taking me kind of, I know it's not feasible to go into too much detail, but just kind of give a brief, 50,000 foot overview of what virtual tour hacking is. Would that be all right?
Yeah, absolutely. So to demonstrate it, I'll share what the process was like when we were actually doing it in person physically, and then you'll be able to see how it correlates to the online space too. So in person, when we were tour hacking, basically I would always walk up to the person at the front of the line because they were the ones who had been waiting there the longest. And they were like, the quote unquote super fans. And literally you could walk up to them and tell them you're a musician, and their ears would perk up and they'd be like, oh my God, it's a musician. So I remember walking up to those people, and I'd ask them a question. I'd say, hey, are you guys here for the All Time Low show? And it's like, of course they're there for the All Time Low show. The reason that I asked that question is because, one, it's a really easy question to start the conversation with. And two, it gives them context to know that I'm not just some sort of random bum or whatever. Like, it's going to be geared around the fact that they're for the All Time Low show. And so then when they said yes, then I would say, awesome. Do you mind if I talk to you for a few minutes while you're waiting in line? And that was a really important question to ask, because you don't want to just butt into someone's conversation without asking for permission. And if you don't do that, then you'll get a lot of resistance. So then they'd say, yeah, of course. Be like, awesome. So my name is Michael. I play keyboard in a band called Paradise Fears. And basically we're huge fans of All Time Low, and someday we'd like to go on tour with them. And so we noticed that before these shows, there's always thousands of people who are waiting outside. So we thought, one smart thing to do would be to go and introduce ourselves and meet those people. And so if you're interested, I've got some clips here with some of our songs, but I should probably warn you that most people who listen to it enjoy it so much that they start to cry and faint. And so, if you need any tissues, I've got a backpack full of tissues. I have really fast reflexes. I'll make sure you don't faint.
I'll catch you.
I'll catch you. Or if there's like a dude in the group, then I'd always be like, this guy looks like he has really fast reflexes. He'll probably catch you.
Nice.
And that was a great icebreaker, and that worked every single time. I would say that it would break open the tension, and then we'd have a conversation. And at that point, I'd be sharing the songs around. They'd be listening to a 20-second, 30-second clip of a song, and I'd start a conversation with everyone else in the group. And I would just ask them, so how long you guys been a fan of All Time Low for? Or what's your favorite All Time Low song? Is this your first All Time Low concert? And just started connecting with them. And after everyone had a chance to listen to the songs, then I would ask, so what do you guys think? Did you like it? Did you hate it? And 99 times out of 100, they'd say, yeah, this was awesome. We really liked it. Where can I listen to more? I say, well, if you guys liked it, if you're interested, I do have a backpack here full of CDs. This is called Battle Scars, and it was produced by the same guys who produced All Time Low and Mayday Parade. And so it's kind of like they got together and they had a baby.
Yeah.
It would be this CD. And, normally there's 11 songs on it. So normally we charge $10 for it. But to be honest, the main reason I'm out here right now isn't because I'm trying to sell as many CDs as possible. It's because I'm trying to connect with as many people like you. And I'd really like to go on tour with All Time Low. And, I think that if you like the songs, I think you'd really like the CD. And if you have extra $10 on you want to support us, we really appreciate it. It goes towards touring and recording new music. But like I said, the main reason I'm out here isn't because I'm trying to sell CDs. So if you don't have $10, then I still want to give you one for free. And that was just how we positioned the offer, and it worked really, really well. Probably 4 out of 5 groups we talked to, there'd be at least 1 or 2 people who got a CD. A lot of times if one person got a CD, then like the whole group would get a CD. And then you take out your Sharpie and you start signing it for them, and everyone else in the line is seeing this whole process happen. And, you know, there's a lot of, it works really well. So there's a lot of gold in that process.
Yep.
And so that's it physically. So essentially with virtual tour hacking, the way that it works, that we found has worked best, is through Facebook and Instagram campaigns that are messenger based. And so basically there's a,
you say Facebook and Instagram campaigns. What do you mean by campaign?
Like a ad campaign. Yeah. So if you go like business.facebook.com, then you can create an account and you can start running campaigns, and you can get really targeted. So first of all, you know, you can target people who are literally fans of whatever artist it is that you would quote unquote be tour hacking normally. And then when you're targeting them, basically what we found works best is a 15-second, 20-second long video of you introducing yourself. Hey, what's up? My name is Michael. I play keyboard in a band called Paradise Fears. I think if you're a fan of All Time Low or Mayday Parade, it was kind of like they got together and had a baby, and I think you might like the song. So if you're interested, click on the send message button below, and I'll send you a song. You know, that's like the premise of the intro video. It's exactly like meeting someone in person. Yeah. It's really, really low-key, conversational introduction.
Very interesting. Okay.
Then they click on send message, and it sends them the song. And then we have what we call your Intune survey framework, which is essentially like a framework of different questions to ask that are going to allow you to get in tune with them, to be able to connect with them, build a relationship. Very similar to how in lines I would ask, you know, so how long have you been a fan of All Time Low for? And you just kind of build that relationship. So in the context of online, some of the questions we ask are, you know, what are some of your favorite artists that you've been listening to lately? Or what are some of your favorite songs and why? And do you go to live concerts? Yes or no? If so, you know, what's one of your favorite live concerts that you've ever been to? And
you build up a door and just ask some questions, have a conversation via chat.
Exactly. And what's smart about it too is
you're not doing this manually, right?
What we do is we start out by doing it organically. So we recommend for your first 10 to 20 people that you're doing it with, that you actually have a real conversation, because that's going to help you get a sense of how the conversations actually go.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then I'll talk about how we automate that in a little bit. But, you know, during the conversation, you know, part of what's really important about it and why it's been working so well for us is because the questions that you ask, not only are they a good way to connect with them and get in tune, but it's also really valuable market research. And so you're learning about other artists that you can target. And you're also learning, you're being able to filter people based on how they answer the questions. So for example, if you ask if someone goes to live shows and they say, never, I'm too broke, or if they say, yes, all the time, I love live shows, then you can segment people based on how they answer and then create lookalike audiences based on the best quality people. Because that's one of the biggest challenges I saw artists running into, is that they're running campaigns, in some cases, literally spending tens of thousands of dollars and not hardly getting any real results. Sometimes they would get like, you know, 10,000 quote unquote fans from overseas who are like really cheap, who aren't like real engaged.
Paying for likes.
Yeah, paying for likes, or like
be interested. Yeah,
exactly. And even like if it's not just paying for straight bots, you know, even if they're paying for like real people, in a lot of cases, they had no sort of filtration system to be able to zero in and hone in on the people who actually are the most engaged. Okay. Therefore, they have a pretty weak engagement on their online profiles.
It's pretty discouraging too to spend all this money, right, and to attract somebody who's or have an audience that doesn't have conversations with you. So it sounds like you've implemented virtually what you did physically, which is you naturally found the right target audience by following your band, the All Time Low, the fans of All Time Low. And you knew that now, obviously, the people who are showing up to their shows would also be interested in your music. And then you started to have a conversation, which was initiated through the messenger chat, organic at first, so that you can figure out what you need to say in the first place, and then you automate. So what's kind of after that?
Yeah. So at the end of the conversation, what we found has been working best so far has been inviting people to a private community. Usually we do this through like a private Facebook group where you can do live streams. You can kind of have exclusive content for them. It's also a good way to get their email address and their phone number. But in terms of an offer, usually what we recommend starting out is having some sort of self-liquidating offer, which basically means that the goal is just to pay for the initial ad spend that it costs to acquire them. And so the way that we do that is through a free plus shipping offer that's for a starter pack bundle. So essentially, when someone joins your private community, you say something like, "Hey, welcome to the club. Thanks so much for joining. Appreciate you." One thing that we offer as a thank you is we've got a starter pack bundle that normally costs $20, comes with like a handwritten note from me. It comes with X, Y, and Z. But as a thank you for joining, we're going to send it to you for free. You just cover the shipping and handling for it. And then it costs like $7, and you get some really cost-effective things that you're shipping out so that you can liquidate your ad spend. Awesome. And so that's usually what we offer is like the first touch point too, because you just met them. You don't want to like go overboard with like a big offer.
Right.
And then once they join your community,
touch point, you mean offer, like purchase, right? That's what you mean by touch point.
By touch point, I mean like that in a lot of cases, these are people that you're meeting for the first time ever. And this is your first relation. Okay, this is your first touch point.
Is the first touch point, that sequence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha. Exactly. Okay. Yep.
Okay, cool. All right. Okay. Awesome. So you've narrowed them down by interest lookalike audiences. They've seen your ad. Well, your ad, which would just be you introducing yourself, saying, "Hey, if you like X, Y, and Z, then you'll probably like this. Click there, click here," and then they enter a messenger conversation. From there, you invite them to a private community, and from there, you have your SLO, your self-liquidating offer, which is like a membership pack or something. Just pay shipping. And the idea of that is to pay for at least the price of the ads, and that's the first sequence.
Exactly. Yep. So that's what we call funnel version 1.0. So like it goes up to that offer with the starter pack. And then there's 3 other offers that over the course of your relationship, basically like we'd recommend having a value ladder, right? So having a few different price points of different things that you offer, including some things at the high end. Like the high end is actually where you're going to make the majority of your income. So it's really important to have some of those offers, but it also takes, more of a relationship and delivering more value to those people.
You have to know what they want before you can give it to them. So you have to have relationships and conversations. But yeah, that first sequence, that version 1.0, I could see how that would give you that, right? And it seems like it's a process, a proven thing to know that, okay, I'm going to invest this amount of money. 'Cause the last thing you want to do is spend money on ads and, not have the confidence that it's going to work out. That's pretty scary, right? So having a plan in place and a sequence in place that will result in at least liquidating those costs is pretty exciting, right?
For sure, dude. I mean, a lot of the people we work with have literally spent tens of thousands of dollars on advertising on different platforms, YouTube ads, Facebook ads, playlist stuff, PR, publicity, and invested tens of thousands of dollars into recording their music too. And still, when they released it, didn't really have a method for promoting it. And so it definitely is like a big sigh of relief and like a light bulb that happens of like a lot of validation comes from getting those initial conversations and seeing people really deeply connecting with the songs.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know what I like about direct advertising, highly targeted advertising, as opposed to, or just totally organic content, is that it's the wave, right? You're riding the wave. I think that a lot of people jumped onto the whole, let's create some content wave. And now there's so much content out there that it's just info overload. It's just, there's just so much. And the thing I like about advertising, highly targeted advertising, is for very low cost. You can show your ad to somebody who you have a pretty good idea that they're going to be interested in what you're doing. And it's easy to look at all the numbers and, turn it on or off like a faucet, and that's just something that's really, really exciting to me. So it looks like for your clients as well, you've kind of figured out that that's the best, most productive strategy, because you can start having those conversations right away. You can start getting momentum right away. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, dude. The analogy that that I share a lot is that building your music career is a lot like building a fire, in the sense that when you're starting a fire, you need the logs initially, and the logs are kind of like your music or your videos, it's your content. And so, like you're just saying, you could have a bunch of wet grass or a bunch of twigs and things that you're trying to start the fire with, but it can be really difficult because it's so saturated, as opposed to starting out and just investing in like 3 really high quality songs slash like a music video for those songs. That's really all you need in terms of starting the fire, right? Getting those 3 big logs. But then if that's all you have and you throw it in a fire pit, then nothing happens. It's like just logs in a fire pit, unless lightning happens to strike, which is very, very rare. Sometimes you hear stories, but it's like not a strategy to rely on.
Yeah.
And paid traffic is literally like a flamethrower. It's literally like you pull the trigger and it goes whoosh, and it shoots out flames to start the fire, which is pretty cool, rather than rubbing your hands together to do all this like organic content and trying to get the fire started. Another strategy is that if you have a network, if you have relationships, putting your logs next to another person's fire is a great way to start your fire too.
So it'd be like kind of collaborating online with another artist, or
exactly
live show. You could, do like a live show together, or digitally you could like record a music video together or something like that. Mm-hmm. Any sort of collaboration. Yep.
100%. And that's a super effective strategy. But what we found is just that it's been really challenging for artists who are just starting out, because they don't have a flame going themselves. There's not really anything in it for the other party, unless you are willing to pay them or willing to do something to put your logs next to.
You have to have something going first, it looks like. That would be kind of like, doing a live performance for 2 unknown local bands. And, obviously they don't have any fans. Nobody's going to show up. You're going to be playing for the other band and the bartender. Right. So you got to have something going first, some draw.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Okay. Yeah. So thanks for sharing that with us. You got some big things going on right now too, though, don't you? The Success with Music Summit. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, dude. Sure. So the Success with Music Summit is something we've been doing once a year for the past couple of years. This will be our third year doing it. And Greg is actually going to be one of our guests on there. So we're stoked to have you on there. Woo-hoo! And we had an awesome conversation about music branding and about kind of crafting your artistic identity, what sets you apart. And the idea is that as an industry, like there's a lot of different experts with different topics, and there's a variety of things like music licensing, getting your songs synced to TV and film, and Spotify, and building a presence on YouTube, and getting your songs produced, and a lot of different topics with different experts in different areas. And so the idea of the summit is that we brought together 15 of the world's biggest experts in the music industry to be able to share how to build a successful music business. So how to grow an audience online, and how to actually make a full-time income with your music, especially if you're not able to play live shows and you're in the middle of like a global pandemic or something and you have to do it online. And so, there's 15 speakers, and we have some incredible guests on there. For example, Rick Barker, who's the former manager of Taylor Swift. And we had the CEO of Bands in Town, just like and Greg as well. Greg's awesome. And I feel really honored.
Rick, but I'm awesome. Rick's more awesome.
No. I mean, you guys, it's like, what's the best way to describe it? It's like peanut butter and jelly. What's more awesome, peanut butter or jelly? It's like, well, you put them together, and that's what makes them awesome. But yeah, the idea of like a rising tide rises all boats, I think. So it's everyone's just sharing the best of the best. So what you heard from me, it's like 1/15 of the awesomeness that you would get from this conference. And the way that it rolls out is that, with a lot of music conferences, you can get a ticket for $800, $1,000, like South by Southwest, to go to it. And it's awesome. It's totally worth it because, you learn so much. But the way that we wanted to roll out this conference is that the way it works with the business model is that it's actually free to attend live, and we do it over the weekend. And so each day we're going to air 4 different interviews from each speaker, and they're going to be sharing, tidbits and of strategies like we talked about today with my virtual tour hacking idea, also music licensing, TV and film, and some of the other things that we talked about. So we have 4 of those a day, and they're free for 48 hours after they air. We're going to air them live, and the replays are available for 48 hours. After 48 hours, they go away, and there's an optional upgrade to get lifetime access for $200. So throughout the weekend, it's free. If you attend live, you can watch the replays, and then it goes up to $200. And that's just our business model that we found has helped us to be able to provide massive value up front, but still to have something on the back end for people who'd like to upgrade.
Perfect. So you can attend live and there's absolutely no cost, but if you want the additional value and convenience of being able to watch them at your convenience, reference them, and have access to the lifetime access to those things, then there's, a modest fee that's well, beyond the, what you get in return of the value. So, okay, that's awesome. So where could we go to sign up for the summit if that's something that we're into?
Yeah, so I'm sure that Greg will put like a link somewhere in the description for the show notes so you can click on it really easily. But easiest way to go to it if you're looking for it is modernmusician.me/summit. And that'll bring you to the registration page where you can get your free ticket.
modernmusician.me/summit. I'm writing that down for the show notes. musician.me/. All right. Well, cool, Mike. Thanks for coming out and, sharing that with us today. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we jump off here?
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me. I think probably the biggest challenge or the biggest mistake that I see artists struggling with is just like a willingness, and this is going to be kind of philosophical or a million miles in the air, but just like a willingness to put yourself out there and make mistakes and to fail forward. The worst thing that you can do for your career is just to wait until everything's perfect. The best thing that you can do is like, you want to make a plan, but you want to move really, really quickly and take action and adapt as you go, and be willing to put yourself out there and figure out what doesn't work so that you can actually see what are the few things that do work. And in addition to that, whenever you're looking to achieve something in your life or your career, finding those people who've done the thing that you want to do and surrounding yourself with them, learning from them, absorbing as much knowledge from them as possible is going to help you get there more than anything else.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just like practicing music and learning from mentors and getting training helps you become the best musician that you can become. It's the same thing with best music business that you can build. Absolutely. All right, Michael, thank you so much for coming by, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you.